Hello and welcome back to a new video. So, I turned 18 a few days ago. I released a new song, so check that out. But today I would like to talk about why Socrates did not like democracy. According to certain accounts from the Republic, from Plato, which he wrote. Because, as you guys probably know, Socrates didn't write anything down himself, but Plato wrote down his thoughts, kind of in a way. Anyway, so, I would say, now, a first disclaimer still, I myself, I don't want to say anything bad right now. I just want to say about the things that how I understand why Socrates didn't like democracy, and I might be wrong. I'm not a scholar yet. This is just from what I've read and what I've watched, what I've basically come across. So I'm not a professional, but I think this is just what I found, and this is my interpretation of it, because I like thinking about this stuff. And I would also like to create a follow-up video relating it to today, maybe, why today democracy might be dangerous. Maybe not, just generally the differences between back then and today, maybe, because the democracy in Athens was a bit different. Anyways, let's dive right into it, because I'm already talking way too much. Okay, so first of all, I would call this lack of understanding. He believed that many common people didn't necessarily understand the complexity of what it actually means to have power and lead a country. And I think he didn't necessarily trust the common people, the majority of the people basically, to actually make rational decisions on who should lead a country if they themselves don't necessarily know what it takes to lead a country, right? I think that's how I understand it. Generally, I've read that Socrates praised the Spartans a lot, Spartan monarchy in a way, and he thought that the Athenians or the common people were lacking virtue in a way, that virtue and morals was starting to decline. And I wrote a whole essay about this. As the Peloponnesian War went on, morality in ancient Athens kept declining. People did not value their morals and ethics as much anymore. And that's also one part of it, I believe, why Socrates always advocated for questioning everything and for values and for morality. And I think this ties to the fact that the less virtuous a society is, the harder it is for also common people to basically make a decision, a rational decision on who could lead the country or the people, right? Which also ties kind of into my next point, which I call lack of care. I think most common people had different priorities, and they really wanted the best for themselves. And rhetoric was a big propaganda back in the days. I mean, they didn't necessarily have pictures and advertisements as we have today, but they would more listen to what the leaders or the people on the stage were saying. So if somebody who wanted to become a politician appealed to the common people saying, yeah, I'm gonna do all the things that you want, he talked to them in a nice, humorous way, which they really liked, they would be more inclined to vote for that person. I mean, people usually want their leaders to represent their beliefs and generally do what the people want. And that's also very common today, I believe, which we can all see. Not gonna name any names, but I think we can all think of a few who do that. And that's the thing that I like to call lack of care, because people just wanted the best for themselves, or they wanted their wishes to be fulfilled by the politicians. That's why they trusted them and just believed them and then voted for them. And I believe also lack of care because they didn't necessarily probably value the importance of actually democracy, but more just the fact that they can vote for a person who can do what they say, or allegedly, right? Because most of the times people actually then, or like the people in power actually don't actually execute the things then, which could lead to like, yeah, demagoguery or something like that. Generally, like abuse of power, authoritarian systems and stuff like that. And we can obviously see this in a few parts of history, but also today, I would say. And the last point, I think, is teaching how to vote. So Socrates always wanted to make people question everything. He always wanted people to realize that they're not actually as wise as they think they are. And that's why he has a quote, a famous quote saying, "I know that I know nothing," because he figured out that while talking to these wise men and women, of course, but yeah, he figured out like, yeah, by asking them questions, they didn't actually know what they were talking about fully. Like he would ask strange questions like, "What is love? Explain love. Why?" and stuff like that. Really in-depth questions, and they didn't know how to answer because, I mean, how would you answer that, right? Like, how would you answer that on the spot? So he figured out, okay, by knowing that I know that I don't know all these things, I'm actually wiser than them. Or like, I know that I know nothing. Like, yeah, I like that concept, to be honest. I agree with that. Anyway, and I think that this ties back to education because he believed that people weren't taught to vote adequately. They didn't know how to vote for the right person. They didn't know how to maybe necessarily critically think through what the person was saying. They didn't necessarily know what the person was saying on the platform, so they didn't know necessarily how to rationally think about it or critically think through and if they should believe him or if they should not believe him, because they weren't taught to think that way. Like Socrates was always questioning them. They didn't really know that. So that's why he believed that it should be a part of education, a crucial part of education, to teach people how to critically think, to be then able to vote for rational people who actually don't try to abuse their power, let's say. And I think that is a still very important concept today because, yeah, I mean, education is a big part of it, and I think people who deny that education should be probably the most important thing in a society, like one of the most important things, I think that's a bit suspicious. People who already don't like that, to me, the red flags are blinking because, I mean, why would you not want the whole population or like the majority of the population to critically think and actually be able to think what the person on the power platform says, right? I think that's just a very important part of our society, to understand what others are saying, to communicate well, and for that I think we need education. And obviously that is just another topic because there's many different types of education which are probably all have their good and bad sides. But anyway, I think I'm gonna cut this video now. I think I'm gonna end it here. I hope you like this video. I hope you learned something. And let me know if I should make more of these videos. I mean, I don't care what you think, I'm going to do it anyway. And next time I'm probably going to talk about why Plato didn't like democracy, because there are some parallels, but there's also some differences between him and Socrates, so I would like to address that, and yeah. Anyway, check out my new song on Spotify. I'm gonna link it in the description, because I think it is a really nice song. Very summer vibes. And yeah. Have a nice day. Bye bye.